if you're in the martial arts, you've got to go in the ring, which is one of the things I had to learn, which as a doctor and with my surgical hands, I wasn't so excited about. Fight again. But he said, no, you're going to do it. And you had to fight one person, two people, three, because you want to develop this ability to have sensory experience around you.
Right.
It's called a 360 experience, so that you're always, whether you're up, down, side, you can sense things. So one of the people that was there when I was there was Jet Li, and he was, he was a great fighter, and he was able to be there, I think 5 years winning in China, and just a phenomenal guy. And he used a number of these techniques that when you come up to the camp to get not only heal certain injuries, but also to stay in that zone.
Welcome to Far Out with Faust. I'm Faust Chicho, and today I have the honor and the privilege of sitting here with Dr. Barry Morguelan, aka Dr. B, aka the real Dr. Strange. Let me tell you about Dr. B and what this incredible man's been up to. Dr. B is a world-renowned, double-board certified surgeon, and he's a pioneer in the field of gastroenterology. He practiced medicine here for decades, and he was growing tired and frustrated with treating patient after patient and symptom after symptom. And so he knew that there had to be a better way, that there was something he was missing. And so he began a quest around the globe, searching for the most practical and effective systems of healing. And that quest ended in the mountains of China after decades long of a harrowing apprenticeship under the tutelage of these reclusive masters of this ancient 5,000-year-old Chinese energy discipline. And Dr. B is in fact one of 12 remaining masters of this form of training and the only Westerner to ever practice it. Now, Energy for Success is Dr. B's company, and that's we're going to be talking about this program that he developed. It's a one-of-a-kind reinterpretation of this ancient personal energy mastery tradition. And it's got everything. So we're going to get into that as well. But since its creation, Energy for Success has supported, world leaders, presidents, entrepreneur legends like Tony Robbins, Jay Abrams, Dave Asprey, professional athletes, actors, writers, you name it. And all of them have one thing in common: the excellence that they achieved was beyond anything they could have imagined after using this program. And I'm so excited to share it with you. I've been knee deep in it for a few days now, and all things Dr. B. Dr. B, thank you so much for beaming in. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much. I'm really thrilled to get a chance to communicate to all your wonderful folks that you've been telling me about, who are out there, who appreciate, that you've really got a heartfelt message in your podcast and you're really wanting to make a contribution to people. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. So Dr. B, I know, I don't know how tired you are of kind of going over some of this story, but it's so incredible,
the story, how much I can tell about the story. I have another book of my notes that when I was traveling that we're finally going to release, but I didn't want to release it until things have people are ready for this kind of stuff now. I think that, that they realize that there's an opportunity and the quantum of really accomplishing a lot more in life than pretty much anybody is going to allow you to know about.
Now more than ever, man. I think the tides have turned, and I think the science is catching up to what the spirituality and the sages have been teaching. And I heard some incredible stories from you when I listened to you talk at the biohacking conference. Mm-hmm. That's where I was first exposed to you. I heard Dave Asprey introduce you as the real life Dr. Strange. And of course I'm a comic book collector. So immediately my ears perked up, and I started to research you, and I was blown away by what I was reading. So it's really exciting, but I wanted to start a little bit about your, this. You spent years and years. How many years were you training in China?
So it was a very, very rigorous system, which it was just an honor to even be able to be there to study the Grandmaster. He was a national treasure. And the only reason I got to even connect with him was that I'd been on a search for like, 7 years or more when this happened about 25 years ago when I was like working hard and I was at the top of my field in gastroenterology and surgery and had 2 practices and still do here in Los Angeles. But like you mentioned earlier, is this how, I wanted to get everybody well. And just
Right.
every time I go to the emergency room, there's somebody else, and then go up to the floor. Then there, even if you're getting people well, there was still too many people. So I wouldn't, it bothered me that even though we had great techniques, especially when I was using endoscopy, we don't have to cut people open. We could do things and then go home. Still, they were having the problem. So one day I was talking to Mrs. Rodriguez. I was discharging this lady, really sweet lady, and I'd known the family and the grandparents and everybody else. And so I said, well, she's the last patient. So I was like, try to save the best for last. So I sat on her bed, the sun's coming in. I said, okay, Miss Rodriguez, you have to go home. Your tumor's out, everything's fine. And instead of her saying, oh, that's great, she said, Dr. B, I'm really thrilled you did that, but it took so long to see you. And I've been suffering for so long until they found out what was wrong. And so I said, I get it. I wish you never had to get sick at all.
Yeah.
I wish people never had to come to this place. I wish everybody could be their own doctor. And so then she looked at me and she said, Dr. B, if anybody's going to be able to do it, you need to go do that.
Wow.
So then I just felt, that moment was my moment of decision. Even though I was already at the top of my field surgical wise, I was going to have to discover something completely that nobody knew anything about. But I was not willing to go spend the next 30 years, which is what it turned out to be, to not say that I didn't find it, or I didn't at least look for it. And I didn't get a lot of support from the surgeons in the building, in the hospital. It's lucky I was, running some of the departments there, so they couldn't flack me too much. But they always go, find the fountain of youth yet? Because every 3 months I would take off on my own and go look for things that people now are discovering and getting excited about. But I mean, I was doing plant-based medicine in South America 25 years ago, and I was doing the holotropic breathing, and I did look for crystals throughout all South America. I worked with shamans down there. I actually became a shaman for a while, did all those crazy things. We were walking on, terrible, dangerous glass and all these things just to prove that, that there's an altered reality that you can connect to.
Right.
But how to have, like in South America, one of the things I was thinking about was that, I know that plant-based medicine has become very exciting now, but back then it was just, we just pull a big leaf off of one of these plants and grind it, and huge amounts of smoke would come up. And of course it was wonderful, but you can't bring that back to UCLA. And also that doesn't keep you from getting sick. It's just a release of a moment of, it's like a relief, whether that's your relief, whether that's, THC, whether it's CBD, whether it's something else. It doesn't put you in a place that I wanted Mrs. Rodriguez to be, and everybody out there, is that that as life goes on, everybody thinks life goes on sort of like deteriorating. You're told that, well, you're born and that's it. You're just going to sort of deteriorate over time, and then look at old people, don't look. But and so I want to know, could you get healthier? Could you get stronger the rest of your life each day? And so it took forever. I mean, I worked in all Europe. I remember when I was in England, I talked to the doctors there, and I said, you have anything? They go, oh, the only thing we have is this stuff, Bach remedies, which was the flower remedies, the drops, the homeopathy. And so, I mean, I checked that stuff out. In Germany, I worked with all the machines, and they've got great electrical machines.
Yeah, they do.
That can vibrate you, or they can, connect to certain acupuncture sites. I got an acupuncture degree. I did learned acupressure, herbology, went to all over Asia, but none of those places for 6.5 years, like over 150,000 miles around the globe every 3 months, had what I wanted to find until I met the Grandmaster in China.
So how did you were tipped off about this guy, right? And then
I only knew that he existed because they showed pictures of him in books, but I knew that you couldn't reach him. I had tried the first year, I think I'd gone to China. I said, I really want to meet this guy. And they go, can't do it. Says, you're American, and he's guarded, and this it was still communism then, with the suits, same outfit. It was pretty weird. I'm telling you, the majority of things on the street when I was there was rickshaws.
Wow.
Wasn't cars. No.
Wow, my God.
No. When they'd ride me around a car, they made a big deal about it. You're riding a government car. And so now it's all Versace and everybody's got cars. But the thing is that I actually was able to treat a number of people there who were in the hierarchy of the government administration. And
Oh,
so
I
they always
see.
wanted to pay me. And I said, no, I don't want any money. I don't want any money. They said,
Yeah.
well, we're here from UCLA, and we appreciate you. I said, what do you want? They said, what do you want besides good Chinese food, which was great Chinese food, I tell you.
Right.
I said, I want to meet this Grandmaster's national treasure. And they go, okay, we'll see if
Yeah.
that can be done, because it's very serious. They had police around him and everything
Yeah.
was guarded because he can treat people without touching them. And he could heal wounds without touching them. And I knew that, and I'd seen videos or photographs of him.
Right.
And I talked to other people, and they said, yeah, he can do it. But you'll never get to see him because he doesn't see people except
This is a very popular, I mean, a lot of traditions that come out of China that have these mystical, mysterious, supernatural qualities. They're very guarded, and it's been like that really. Even the old kung fu masters, the qigong masters, they were same kind of practice. They didn't teach anyone. They definitely never wanted to teach a Westerner. It's not surprising.
Our mentality is get it done, get it over with, get it out, and move on to the next thing. We're always there is a next thing. And in the experience of the world and the universe, from what this whole discipline's about, is that I finally found out where he got all this information from, because I studied him quite a while, which was really a blessing, until he finally said he would teach me. But it all comes from Lao Tzu and and from quantum physics, and from the basis that. You want me to go into this? What it really means?
I mean,
I think it's really important for people to hear this.
Absolutely, then you should.
So the most important thing is, if anybody wants to get a real short course on quantum physics and what it's all about, and the yin yang symbol, there isn't one. It takes all these courses that I've brought back to the US and taped, and because no one's ever done it, it was all the material. When I went there the first year, I kept saying, are there any books on this?
Yeah.
Has anybody written anything down?
It's the oral tradition, right?
It's a complete oral tradition. And plus, he said, no one's going to teach you.
Yeah.
He said, it's an honor to even be taught. It's the second thing, it was never, ever allowed to be taught because it was so powerful that it was only for the emperors and the emperor's guards and for the heads of different areas of the government, because you wanted to keep ruling if you were the head, and so you weren't going to let this out. So in so I had to learn the oral tradition, and if people go back and try to learn things about Lao Tzu, you'll see that there's books about him, but to get his real stuff, no, you can't get. He has one book that came from him, which shows him on a donkey, but it's his back, and it shows the back of a donkey. He's going out of town, and he's leaving the city, and he says, that's enough. I've taught enough. And all students said, no, you can't leave. So they made him wait for, I don't know, 2 weeks, a month, and they wrote everything down that he wanted to tell them during that time. And that's the sort of the basis that made up all the things that people have been writing about since then, trying to interpret. And what's so great about it is that in quantum physics, which is a source of, and Einstein even talks about that, that you matter.
Yeah.
But I mean, you really matter completely. And it's not okay, on some days I matter and on other days I don't know. And it's not positive thinking. It's really where you're at. We can bring someone into an experiment. It's been done many, many times. And no matter what the experiment is, if we put a person there who has any idea what we're doing or no idea, and then we take them out, the results will be different.
Right.
Just your field matters. So you can say, well, do I have control over my field? Absolutely. Now, how do you do that? That's what I brought back, was that you can control your field. And it works so well when you study. I think we talked earlier about the martial arts. If you're in the martial arts, you've got to go in the ring, which is one of the things I had to learn, which as a doctor and with my surgical hands, I wasn't so excited about. Fight again. But he said, no, you're going to do it. And you had to fight one person, two people, three, because you want to develop this ability to have sensory experience around you.
Right.
It's called a 360 experience, so that you're always, whether you're up, downside, you can sense things. So one of the people that was there when I was there was Jet Li, and he was, he was a great fighter, and he was able to be buried, I think 5 years winning in China, and just a phenomenal guy. And he used a number of these techniques that when you come up to the camp to get not only heal certain injuries, but also to stay in that zone. Because what it's all about is that if you wanted to be successful in life, you've had moments. Maybe your audience, someone out there can imagine that they either hit a great home run or a triple or a double, you hit the softball great in high school, you hit the soccer ball, or you spiked the ball one time and it was just clean, or you hit a great tennis shot. There's like, you don't move. You're like,
Right.
you're almost transfixed for a second because you're in that vibration where you really have all your power. And that's why you got the home run. Everybody, if you even see it on television or if you see it live, you'll see the person doesn't run right away. Neither can you, because you're like so much energy came into your body that you don't have to move. You already know. And it's almost like if you ever saw Curry when he used to do this, when he's walking off the court, sometimes he would just, and Jordan used to just do, they just throw the ball up there and then walk away.
Yeah.
And the ball goes way down because you already know, because you have a sense that you can experience the space between you and me and between you and the basket. And it isn't a magical thing. It's in every person's body, these sensors that people have not been trained on how to utilize them. The only sensors that we're aware of is pretty much, I guess, when we eat.
Yeah.
But the fact is that you have millions of them, and that's what this whole discipline's about.
This is so awesome. I'm gonna jump into one of my questions because what you're talking about is there's a direct correlation. Creating the space between thoughts or creating choice. Right. I was listening to one of your lectures and your talks, and you use this awesome analogy about basketball. And you said if you're ever watching a professional basketball team and you see how they are at all times literally creating the space that they need to do what they have to do next, whether that is pass or shoot. And I just was thinking about that. And I was like, that is so true. And you were talking about how, what they're doing is they're creating the space to choose, to use their creative power, and they're always doing it. But I thought, like, that's such a easy way to kind of understand the work that this program that you've created. And I would love to hear you elaborate even a little more about that, because I'm sure that I mixed it up a little.
There's so many wonderful ways we can approach it. One of the most important things is that really these sensors that are all over our body, people are just beginning to understand that now with electron microscopy. And it really doesn't matter if you can see them. Can you use them? And you can, and you have. And there's always the old stories that are about the thin, young lady or mother that pulls the car off the baby.
Right.
And everybody goes, well, now how did that happen? They go, that's not, but it's been repeated so many times that people are able to do those kind of things that you realize that, well, maybe there is another access point in your body to pull in energy that you can then, really get stronger. And then how much more can you do? And that's what I was so thrilled, and why we kept going back to China to work with the Grandmaster, was that these vibrations work not only on your youthfulness, because it makes you younger and stronger, but also opens the Einstein part of your brain. So I've had a lot of clients who have created things. We have one client now who's, hopefully on his way to a Nobel Prize. Wow. But the point is that it makes you so that if you're a writer, you have the ability just to sit in front of a blank page and you can just write for like 2 hours. It will just download. And if you ever talk to writers, they all say, when the muse hits me, or an actor, they say, when the muse hits me, I'm fine. It's on those days when it doesn't and I can't crank it up. Well, this gives you the technique so that you can crank it up and then go home and be with your family, or go play golf, or go out and do something else. Our problem with time is that we never experience we have enough time, and we never experience we get enough things done in the time. So we lead lives of, sort of quiet frustration.
Yeah.
But with the energy, you become more efficient because time slows down. You become more effective and you get more things done. And you've had that experience when, I think you live in New York City, and sometimes you've had to get from one side of the city to the other. And once in a while, time slows down. Yeah, but when it doesn't, you're in trouble, right?
Now, it's amazing. Time becomes very malleable when you start to realize and see it for what it is, which is something that changes with the conscious creator and the experience of that creator. I often joke, it's like, I'm going to have to time travel to get there on time. But so I can't tell you how many times I looked at my watch. I was like, there's no way I can get 5 miles uptown in 13 minutes. There's just no way, I'm going to be a half hour late. And then I'm just like, you know what? Let's time travel, baby. And I just
Go.
get into the
That's it.
flow, and I look at my watch and I'm like 2 minutes late, and I'm like, yes, but it happens. I'm like, how the
That.
hell,
And
you
that's
know?
how we're made. And no one taught you that. People taught
Yeah.
you that since youth, there's a way of you have to learn things according to some kind of whatever. Could be schooling, could be
Mm.
some background, educational, philosophy, family, regional. It doesn't matter. I've worked with these energy techniques now all around the world, every age group from like 6 months old to in people in their hundreds. And the body's made to keep going. And your spirit inside is made to keep going. I think everybody loves the part about, well, you get to, you're really not going to, I mean, some people's understanding, which isn't incorrect, that you get to continue in terms of who you really are
Right.
in essence, but you may not get to continue in terms of maybe this baseball
Right.
it's right here. And people
Right.
get upset about it. They go, wait a minute, I like this guy. I like playing this. I like my wife. I like my kids. Why do I have to leave? I want this death thing.
Right.
And most of what I call the matrix, which is another thing that we could go into, because the early movies of the Matrix, very, very clear, especially the first one, is that it really is a situation where you have a choice, one or the other all the time. It's just no one's really been giving you all the choice to actually have something that really moves you ahead. And that's what I wanted people to have. And that's why I spent so much time going back and forth. I wasn't necessarily, after I saw that you could heal a wound without touching it, and I was able to do that for people and also take care of a lot of illnesses. What I was excited about was that it's a total body elevation. So that works in like 8 areas. One, that the Einstein part of your brain gets stronger every day if you do these practices, like 20 minutes a day if you do the actually anti-Alzheimer. We have people who like
I'm
a
sure.
lady,
Yeah.
I think I told you earlier, it's a lady, Lucille, who's still in one of the seminars, and she came in one time. I think she was in her late 80s, and she took the mic and she says, I just want to tell you, these exercises are really working for me, and my sister who has Alzheimer's, I don't have it, they found out, and they thought I had some dementia, but I'm getting stronger, and the doctor wants to know about this program. What is it doing that I'm different? And
Yeah.
I said, well, that's really great, Lucille. And anything else? She says, yeah, well, recently I've made up with my sister. Oh, well, that's great. What happened? Says, well, we haven't been together very much. I mean, I said, what do you mean? He says, well, she lives 3 blocks away, but we haven't talked in about 49 years.
Oh my
And I
God.
said, yeah. So she said, but now she says, doing these practices, my heart's opened up. So that's one of the other things that the energy is all about, is when you become sufficient and you become stronger and someone hits you or life hits you, you sort of, okay, how can I handle this, rather than getting irritated.
Yeah.
And I think almost everybody knows that our emotional states have a lot to do with
Our
like
health. Yeah.
health. Yeah. And so our first reaction is often just the word reaction has already been programmed.
Exactly.
So you're screwed. So people go, oh, I just had a reaction, now I got to pull my reaction back. It's not easy to do.
No.
It'd be much better if you went into the ring of life every day. And that's what many people have around the world doing this. You're able to just let your sensors open up, and then you're good. Then all of a sudden you're ready to hit the home run.
Yeah.
So she made up with her sister, and she wrote a book about it. And now she's in her 90s, and she's still sharp as a tack.
That's amazing.
And so one of the things that you get, there's like 8 main areas that all of us are supposed to be improving in every day, or you're going to be a little bit chagrined. This whole thing about make your bucket list out, and someday you're going to get all your buckets done, when you finally get past this stage of, I'll first want to do this, and then maybe I'll do that. Well, you're never going to feel satisfied unless you can start to engage in all those things that you were given these talents to express.
Right.
And you want to be unleashed, and you can't. That's what Tony loves, that word, unleashed. You want to be unleashed to be able to go do go do sports one day, and then do family at a different time, and then do exciting
Absolutely
creativity at another time. And it may change throughout your life. So you may have a second act, a third act, a fourth act. There's nothing to hold you back. So your intelligence can be getting stronger. Your strength should be getting stronger. Your creativity, and also financial. I've had people who started out in this program who they had nothing. They're just post-college degree, And I said, no, I said, there's so many people I've worked with that if you just apply these, you make your goals. There's a whole goal setting technique that you'll be successful. And some of those people are into 60 and $80 million in less than 10 years.
Wow.
It's amazing. And, you know, I'm thrilled for so many people who can do that because it brings out that you can do it too.
Right.
It's the human body. See, it's not like you have to have a new psyche or how you, yes, positive thinking helps, but you want to actually work the gears of your body. And what I like is that each one of these aspects, these 8 aspects, allows you to be stronger every day, both in your sleep and in your communication as far as relationships. One of the things that I think is so important is that people are recognizing that, especially with what we've been going through with this isolation thing with COVID, is that it sucks to not be able to connect to people.
It's really,
and how can you recognize that there's a continuum that exists between you and every person on the planet? Well, it's easier to sense that when you're in person, but when someone says you have to be locked up and stay away from people, you start to shut yourself down, and that's not healthy. And we've seen that that's really bad for people's relationships and other things like that.
And health, you know, you've seen the general decline because of that isolation.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Suicide rate is up. Overdose rate is up. And so what if it was true that you and I, and this isn't imaginary, it's actually accurate. What if you and I are actually connected right now, and you're connected with everybody through the massive primary energy source that feeds that mountain over there, feeds that tree, feeds the school over here, feeds you in New York? What if there's a energy source, just like the sun is an energy source that's feeding the planet? It's not that hard to understand, is it?
Not at all.
No,
Not at all.
no.
Not for me.
And you can start to see that your participation in life has a lot to do with how much you want to include what's feeding you. And there's a lot feeding you. It's just we say, no, I can't do that. I shut that off. Because what I liked about the energy for success, it doesn't require it's all quantum physics. So you don't have any belief system. I've done this with people in the Middle East. I've done this with people in Russia. I've done this with people in Korea. Everybody's human body is what is your antenna. That's all you need to know. And it really works. Now, who you want to relate to with that antenna, who you want to connect to as far as relationships, that's up to you. But to make it strong and healthy and have your own individual transformation experience every day, it's totally possible. Totally what you're meant to do here. And, a lot of people, one buddy, Eckhart Tolle, his stuff is so right on about the fact that you've got a personal responsibility to take care of this. The culture's not going to support you.
That's right.
That's why he likes my it's all the Matrix. The fact is that too bad we don't have a culture that's really supporting us, but
I know
it doesn't mean you can't pull it off yourself. And that's why I sort of became this Dr. Strange or Indiana Jones who just kept going on so finally, and I found it's like say you kiss a lot of frogs until you find the prince, so it's like I tried a lot of things, and I don't think I think everybody I met was well-meaning. I think everybody's trying to pull out the best they can for people, but they're all restricted by not getting the larger picture that you really are meant to be like this platform that has 8 different engines, and you're always moving up according to all of those every day. So it's not like just one day you're supposed to kiss your boyfriend or girlfriend. You're supposed to be in love every day.
Right.
Why not? Well, I'm worried about work. I'm worried about something else. So I should shut that off. Who taught you to do that? Yeah, the culture did. You don't need to do that. You could keep that open, then you'll be stronger knowing that person's thinking about you right now, even though you don't think they're thinking about you because you're worried about some business thing.
That's right.
It reminds me of a guy who came to the one of the lectures I was doing, and he said, I came home and I told my wife that bring out the champagne, that I finally made partner, and this is the most wonderful day. And after all these years of working hard to get high up in the law firm, we finally can do it. So he says, and he said, this is my surprise for you and the family. And she says, I have a surprise for you too. She says, I can't wait to celebrate with you. So she handed him the divorce papers. And she said, he said, but I was doing all this for you, all this hard work, and I wasn't around the family, and I wasn't raising the kids, and I was doing all this to make the money and buy the house and those things. It's not why I married you.
Yeah.
I could have, if I wanted to be financially supported, I mean, it's not wrong,
No, it's not.
but it was, they were out of communication. So
Totally.
love and support is part of the process, whether you're in
That's
COVID
right.
or not, and to be able to communicate. So he was in the seminar, and we talked about it, got through the whole thing,
Mhm.
and all of us are sort of out of communication unless we know how to connect.
Yeah.
And
And
who you
that takes,
connecting over there?
we're not exactly taught that either. Well, we tend to learn from our parents who aren't usually the most educated about it. But, I love what you said, when about include, if we were taught to, and I used to call it, recontextualizing, but I love the way you put it too, including, when you learn to include something and instead of fighting against it all the time, because something happens to us and we're thrown by whatever, and then immediately it's like, the day is, people write it off. It's like, I'm gonna have to go to sleep to reset. It's like, but instead of fighting against it, you talked about, including it with love. It's part of it being part of the human experience, and and I'm just so fascinated by, like, this idea of this person who all their sensors are activated and they're just including things with love. And they're like, I keep seeing that in my mind, like Neo walking through the Matrix, with this control over his reality that was not hitherto seen before. And so it's just I love and I'm starting to really kind of grasp the work that and the programs that you're teaching. I'm excited to keep going with them.
I'm so thrilled about that, because one of the things that people don't like to hear, especially started, oh, I don't know, some of the spiritual movements that started from maybe the 60s on, they told people that you're completely responsible for everything. You're responsible for your experience. You're responsible for your, and people go, you're causing the matter. And actually, there's physics behind that. What's missing is that you're jamming down physics to people who are at the moment possibly, experiencing very a cacophony of
Yeah.
emotions that aren't really helpful. So who are you talking to? You're saying you're responsible. If I feel like this, I don't want to be responsible. Give me a
Right.
drug. So, so I would never do this to me. I wouldn't do this to anybody else. But people go, well, it happened from some karma or something. That doesn't help.
No.
Now, what I like about medicine originally, when I went to be a surgeon, and why I love this, the energy for success, is that you can do something about that. So yeah, there's people walking around right now who don't feel great, and they don't feel great not because of physically. You just go, just not that satisfied,
Right. No, yeah.
or I'm not that pleased with the people I've been connecting to, or I'm not that pleased with what I wanted to happen over here. Like the story I told about the lawyer with his wife. He was shocked. He thought he was doing the right thing. So many of us, I think, do great, and then you find out, oh, I was going really fast in this direction, but I left out this, and
Yeah.
therefore it's a problem. It's sort of like there was a Notre Dame football game, wrong way Harrigan, and he made a touchdown, very great for the other team. So
Right.
so he got the name. So a lot of us work really hard, and then later we find out that one, it's not satisfying. Two, we blunt our desire and our interest. And what I want people to get is that is just a temporary thing. Doesn't have to be taken away with a drug. It's as soon as you start having wins again, as soon as you start succeeding and using techniques that you can like gain each day, you're going to get your verve back, and you're going to be able to scamper again, because it's not something that is particular to the fact that I went there and learned this. It's the fact that it comes from our human body. And so if all of us have a human body, we can all do this. And that will cause, so much opportunity to occur for people, that what my goal is that health and, connection with people is and happiness is going to be a easy thing for people, rather than watching the news and
My
social
God.
media and getting bummed.
Yeah, no, that's it exactly. And I have, it's funny because I have a few friends right now who have reached out to me recently, who, all of whom they're searching, maybe for the first time, they're consciously searching for something that they know is missing in their life, and they're not happy about things the way they are. And, I've gotten their attention. I've been outspoken, and I have this show and about what I've learned over the past 5-6 years, and how the incredible transformation it's given me an opportunity to take. And it's a healing journey, and it's, and but I hear them, and I see and hear myself in them. And I, I just want to tell them, it's all going to be not only okay, but you had to be where you are now to get to where you're going, and you're going to love that person. And when you start to have a toolbox, of things that you can just readily go to, and then they become second nature, and you don't even, you start to do them without even thinking about it. It just becomes the new habit, right? But something like energy for success becomes invaluable, because there's something for everything, especially when you're in the midst of a kind of an existential crisis about who you are, who you want to be, and what the hell you're doing on the planet. And it feels like it's now or never, to a lot of
Right.
people.
It is.
And this is something that
very profound.
Yeah. And so when I find out and begin to learn about programs like this, I know they're going to resonate with so many people. I get really excited because I know people who are literally looking for this right now. And it's one of the reasons why I love doing this show and meeting incredible people like you, because I feel like I'm the mediator, the go-between to bridge you with people and things of that nature. But these sensors that you talk about, of course everybody knows the word sensor, but I've never heard them used in that way. And until I started to do the visualizations, man, and you really start to become aware of all these sensors that you never really thought about before. We have our skin, which is considered an organ, and obviously we have nerve endings, and we consider touch one of the five senses. But when I started to do your visualizations, okay, first of all, I noticed that my whole body was more sensitive to touch. I noticed that food, I could taste more of my food. And like, this is just like, I'm like 48 hours into doing these programs, these visualizations and these breathing techniques, and all these, I'm noticing all these things already about my sensitivity to things, which is very cool. And God, that one thing you teach where it's like you begin to feel a vibration, and it's the same sensation as if you were kind of lifting off.
Yes.
And it's so powerful. I've never felt anything quite like it. And my God, it was really a little mind-blowing for me, because it's something that I can incorporate, whenever I have a moment to sit with my eyes closed. So it's so cool.
Yeah, we have people that see up till I'd say past number of years. I thought that I would just work with people possibly like Tony or different senators or different people in government partner around the United States or around the world, and that they would then bring this all out to everybody else, which was my goal. But they all got caught up in their things. They say, no, you have to go out and do this. So Doc, you now have to be able to talk in front of us. So I'm learning how to communicate over the video, but the fact that the thing works so profoundly is how we're made. And Dave Asprey, the guy, he loves to talk about mitochondria. And actually, that's a nice way to look at all the different sensors you've got. And people go, do you have that many sensors? Yes. Now, can you connect to them? Yes. Has anyone ever taught you? Not yet, but now you can do the program. You can find out how to do this every day. So it's like, can you get yourself, people know that they've got a sensor for smell, and they've got a sensor for their hearing. But why would you limit yourself to the fact that you're connected to that tree over there? And someone said, well, I'm not connected to that tree. What are you talking about? Yes, you are. You are connected to that tree. And people would say, I don't get that. I said, well, you could get that. And I'd say, tell me where your lungs are. And they'd say, my lungs, my chest right here. And I go, really? Not really. They go, half of them are there. That's the part that makes the CO2. You need oxygen. You can't live with that tree over there. And you want to not have green trees around and plants. Get over the mold thing, then you're not going to have this exchange that's going on all the time. So you really are breathing from the tree. Now get this, there's actually a pathway from the tree coming into your lungs. That's why I said we're all connected. And then you're passing out the CO2. It's just molecules that you don't see them so well, but they're very visible. And you can actually feel these once you get your senses, which you were starting to experience. And you can experience anything, like in golf, when I used to teach golf and skiing, but in golf all the time you have to know what's going on with the lie of the green, what's going on with the wind, what's going on with the temperature, and that all that means a lot about where you want to hit the ball and how you want to hit the ball and who hits the ball. And I've actually had people because to learn to operate your body is so much fun. We even have a video of this. We had one of the guys who works with me, one of the facilitators. I said, tomorrow I want you to go in front of the room and throw darts. He goes, really? I said, yeah, that's what I want you to do. So he said, do anything special about that? He goes, no. And I said, you know how to throw darts, right? He goes, yeah. So we got a dartboard. We set it up about, and you can see it on video, set it up about 30 feet away from him in front of the room. And so I said, now listen, he's going to be able to throw this dart. And I'm telling you, unless he doesn't do the practice beforehand, which I don't think he's going to be, I don't think he want to be, I think he's going to do practices right before you about putting himself in the zone, put himself in the place where it's just him and that space between him and the bullseye over there and the energy flow, and then use the energy vibrations because there's so many different ones. You just have to learn which ones you want to use, and then throw the dart. You and the energy participate together. It's like you and the energy that's feeding your heart right now is you're working with. You just have to connect to it. I mean, for this moment, someone could go, my heart, yeah, just think for a second. It's there. You can feel it. Just you don't think you can feel it at the same time or sense it. So anyway, he just threw a daggone bullseye right there in front of everybody. And went whack, just like that. And he was shocked. Everybody else was shocked. But the point was, it's the way we're made to succeed. We actually are made to actually have the fun of bringing it all together and putting the ball in the basket or throwing the dart into the center of the target. I've worked with, initially when I was doing this privately, before I came up with all these programs that you can do at home, NBA players, NHL, NFL, all athletes, but those people are already at the top of their field and getting injured. What we want to do as usual people on the planet every day is we'd like to succeed in all these 8 areas, so that your life is one that you want to get up in the morning.
Right. So that you're excited to get up in the mornings, know, like that's the biggest thing is people, it's like something, it's got to be a special day. I talk about it all the time. It's like, remember, like my kids, if it's a school day, they don't want to get up, I don't blame them, but they don't want to get up, if it's a weekend, 6 a.m., they got all the energy in the world. They could have gone to bed at 11 p.m., a school day, school night, they can't move in the morning. They got no desire to move in the morning. Weekends, they're excited about their day. They're going to be doing what they love, so it's like you want to wake up like a week, it's a weekend,
Exactly. That's why I have a whole kids program and a mother and or parents and child program, because kids really are not given the break they deserve, and school is not that exciting, and the teachers are not that well trained. Nothing.
And what are they learning anyway? It's like,
so if I give the kids these programs that they use at home with their parents, then when they go to school, they're in control. They're going, okay, I already did the homework. I understand this stuff. So, making grades is not a big deal anymore. What's fun is how much can I grow and learn? I've even had people doing homeschool that have been going faster than what was happening in their regular schooling. But I'm not promoting that. What I'm saying is that you have the capacity to have your brain get turned on without stimulation from some fantastic school system. You can just do it just by doing these practices, and then you're ready to go. So I know I've had people who want, like I said, write a play or write a movie, and or like Dave had to write 2 books, 2 books. And he says, I only got this period of time to do it. I go, it's not a problem. Not a problem. I said, just do these practices. He goes, yeah, but I'm the editor, everybody else is banging me. I'm going to get some sleep. I went, yeah, it's not a problem. Do these practices, get back to me. So Zoom got it done.
Yeah.
And I've done that with so many people. So it's not that he's unique. You're the same. You have the same body with all the
Right.
sensors that can open up. It's just that
It's
will we
part
do
of the
the
human
practices?
experience, right?
Yeah. You can wish that you have that talent, but it doesn't work that way. You can meditate, and some days you meditate and you're in good shape for quite a while, but then you could also meditate. And like a friend of mine, we went to a meditation class, a very fun one years ago. And then when we got out to the parking lot, he
got
goes,
no fight with over parking
"Hey, no,
spot.
no, not me." We got out of the parking lot. He starts screaming, goes, "God damn." He starts screaming. I said,
Yeah.
"What's wrong?" He says, "I got a ticket. And I got a ticket once here before, but I figured we could just do this meditation class. No big deal." I was going so much for the meditation. It's
Yeah.
not that it
Right.
doesn't work. It's just you want something that's going to hold you together in the moments when you're being tested in life. And the way this planet was set up is you're always being tested. Now,
Yeah.
nobody likes that, but that's the truth. And you can call it resistances of small degree, medium degree, or we ignore them, they become large.
Yeah.
And you don't want to ignore it. Just like you don't want to ignore your teeth. You want to floss them. You don't want to
Right.
ignore, your body. You want to get it in shape.
No, you do. I mean, you neglect it and it's going to come back to bite you in the ass,
Right. So people feel like there's too much to do, and actually there's not too much. There's too much misinformation. That's what I call the matrix. So you can actually focus a certain amount of time each day, do these practices like you were doing, watch the videos, and your body, what I like about the system is meant to, just like when you're next to the ocean, it absorbs vibrations that are good for it and absorbs vibrations that, aren't so good. So if you're next to the ocean, you feel great, right? If you're next to one of these videos and you listen to it, it's an immersive experience. You don't have to think about the whole thing. You don't have to decide anything.
Yeah.
Your body gets turned on. But if we take you and put you, say, at the bottom of the Pentagon in one of those green walls,
or just put me in front of a 24-hour news channel,
yeah,
forget about it.
And we can actually test you. We can give you exams and see what happens. And your motor skills, mental skills, emotional skills all go down the drain.
Yeah, not only that, but I won't be any fun to be around at all. Speaking of tests and resilience, I still I want to go back to some of the incredible feats that you were kind of you weren't forced, you could have quit, but I know you didn't. I know you were determined to stick it out. And I know that, the treatment you got was very much like, I mean, for lack of a better way to describe it, like something you would see out of a movie. They treated you like the foreigner. They treated you like this guy, they wanted you to quit. I mean, probably
never tried to help me.
And so you were constantly kind of on the receiving end with very little, I guess break, but I'm wondering, and, I've heard you talk about it, some of the experiences, but like, was there a moment when you ever thought like, I can't, like, this is either I'm going to quit or I might not survive this, like when they,
a lot of times, not just one,
it was a series of moments. That's the other thing I thought. Immediately it came to me. I'm like, he probably thought of like that so many times over the years, having to do all these crazy things. Like, I know they made you, like, you had to melt the snow. I mean, you're basically just in your underwear, but you had to be able to control your body enough to melt all the snow that you were sitting in, right? And I you told a story at the conference of when your master, he broke your finger, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's an owie, and then he healed your finger, did he not?
Yeah, that was see, this whole system. Let me start with like the first time when he said, "Do you want me to train you?" And this is like after 2 years of going back and forth of just studying him to see that, here I'm a scientist and I've done science and work and research in addition to patients, and surgery every day it's got to work or else it's not okay. So it's real deal. So what he was doing was real deal, I wanted to prove it. And so I get to see clients that would come back over and over the years. And I said, this thing works, man. This is amazing. The human body loves this kind of energy. So when he asked me, do you want to be trained in this? I said, it'd be a life dream. I never thought there'd be even a chance. So he said, well, there's two things you need to know. One, you're not going to make it. And I said, okay, what's that mean? He said, well, you already got your medical degrees and your research degrees and you teach your international this, but in this discipline, this is 5,000-year-old discipline. There's very few people ever make it all the way to mastery of this because it's so difficult. You make it as far as you're willing to keep bringing yourself to the challenge of what each attainment level is. And he said, so, if that's okay with you, then fine. But, I can't guarantee you're going to get an MD degree here. So I said, no, that's okay. I would like to learn. I've done karate and hapkido and a lot of other things. And, getting belts is something I liked. And so if it was going to go different levels, I said, okay, I don't care how long it take. It took a long time. Let me tell you, years. He says, the second thing is you might not make it. He says, because people die over here.
Yeah.
Because we don't have malpractice or a bunch of lawyers running around to help you. He says, if you notice on all the trails here, there's nothing to protect you from falling all the way down the mountain.
Yeah.
So there's people. So and because the challenges that you're going to be getting is so that you can deliver this to other people and bring this out. So you have to make the attainment before you have your body is brought in the vibrations so that now you can manifest that for other people. So you're going to have to prove it on every single challenge.
Wow.
So, he says, so some people don't make it and they really get hurt and they won't, we'll try to help you.
Some people, die. I'm sure some people have not.
Well, unfortunately, one of my buddies died. It really broke me up because I used to talk to that guy all the time. He's from Hong Kong. And he was one of the few people that spoke enough English that would translate a few things for me. Yeah. So it was a bug when he went. I really love this guy in terms of his capacity. He's a really smart guy, but he really, well, like all of us, you can get caught in sort of a matrix attitude that I think I got this. I think I know everything now, and I can make this work from what I learned last time. But each challenge in life is a little more challenging, a little more requiring us to grow. And that's where I learned this whole experience, not just with him, but with a number of other things that happen, is that you really, in this experience of life, you're either expanding every minute or you're contracting. There isn't, that's what the yin yang symbol's about. You're either on this one side where it's all dark and you've got this one light at the end of the tunnel, which maybe is there, maybe not. And you've got all these stressful experiences to go through. And then the other side where it's all bright and light, where you keep winning and winning. And then you have a little black dot there, a dark dot, which of a little bit of challenge, a little bit of resistance. And some people say, well, why do we have to have resistance? And then I go, okay, if you had a great dinner, and people go, yeah, okay. And say we gave you leek soup. You ever have leek soup or potato soup?
Yeah, sure. I've been to Ireland. Yeah.
Yeah. So does it taste good the way it is, or does it taste better if you put a little white pepper?
Yeah.
Pepper. And they always go, oh, I want the pepper. Or if you had shark fin soup in China, does it taste better with the vinegar or is it without? They go, oh, with a little vinegar. So that's the spice. But when we get caught in the matrix or lost in sort of the voices in your head or emotions that go on with us every day, we just sort of bolt around and think things should just work the way we're bringing ourselves to whatever we're doing. And Einstein already told you, if you want things to work, it's not going to happen unless you come to it from a whole new set of thinking perspective than how it occurred the first time. So when you say, well, how did it occur the first time? Whatever you brought to the picture. So what can you bring in you newly? Could you live your life? You're growing newly and expanding every day. So if you're always expanding, you're going to do great. And that's what all these practices are about that we've got for you.
And when you're expanding, you're putting that signal out, and the universe, whatever God, whatever you want to call this divine system that we live in, right? I mean, not the matrix not the matrix, but your capacity in the matrix is, they're two different things, right? But that signal you put out when you're expanding, the universe is like, how can I help you? How can I open doors for you? And all these things start to happen for you when you start to follow, this open-hearted path that comes, it's a literal expansion. Your heart opens and you love yourself. And that's like, I think before you can really begin to experience the profundity of this life, that's the biggest hurdle, I think, for people, because we aren't taught to love ourselves. We're taught to guilt and shame ourselves, and we're taught that we're inherently flawed, and we have religions that teach us these crazy notions that are not part of our experience. But you teach and condition people long enough something, and they're going to believe it. I was reading a comic book the other day, and it was like this little blip in a comic book, but they tell the story of these elephants, and all these elephants are raised with this rope on from the time that they're babies, and they grow up tied to this fence, this fenced in area. And when they grow up, they never leave the fenced area. They don't know that they can. They don't know their own strength, and they never realize it because they've never known it, right? And it's one little rope creates and conditions the illusion on these big, powerful elephants that they can't walk outside this fence. And I thought, what a perfect, metaphor, or whatever you call it, for what's happening all around the world all the time with us and our incredible nature.
Yeah, you have at every moment, you and I are given the opportunity to break that rope. We are not stuck with the rope. However, you may have had the thought process or the emotional process that said, well, I've never done that before. Well, that's the challenge. And that's why you want to put yourself in the best shape to go, well, I think I'll try it today and see what I can do. And then you'll find out you can.
Yeah.
Isn't that neat?
It's amazing especially when you start to experience it. I try to teach my children this because, children being children, they do try something, they can't do it, and they're like, I can't do it. I'm like, no, you can't do it because this is the first time you're trying. You have to try again, and then you're going to learn how to do it. But you just keep trying, and it's going to come to you. And getting them to think like that is, it's sometimes it's a task, but the joy of seeing them do it, and then when it starts to work for them and they look at you with that big smile, and that joy in their eyes, it's like, then they're beginning to understand a little more about life.
Kids and adults, very little difference, just size.
Yeah.
When I had a parent bring me her daughter, adorable lady and adorable daughter, and she said she doesn't want to learn to ride a two-wheeler, and I told her, you teach her. And I went, okay, that's what I'm doing today. So I said, all right, so we're going to go out into the parking lot. And the little girl said, she's about 7. She said, I really don't want to do this. And I went, why? Because I got hurt so many times in my knee, and I banged, and I don't want to have I said, you got a helmet? And she says, I just don't want to do this two-wheeler thing. I'm not going to do it. I said, listen, we're going to do these energy techniques before you get on the bike. And once you get on the bike, you're going to feel and sense you're in your best self. So you know what that's like. She says, yeah, but not on a bike. I go, I know, but it applies to everything. You're supposed to grow up. And where before it was playing with Barbie, now it's going to be on a bike. You're going to learn balance, because every human being has it in you. You have these sensors, and balance is one of them. And we're going to connect you to it. So she said, yeah, I don't want to do it. I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'll hold the back of the seat. And I guarantee you that you will not fall. I will not let you go until you can ride the bike. She goes, you promise? I said, promise. So I held the back of her thing, and I'm running around behind her in the parking lot, holding the back of the seat, until finally she goes, I can do it. Let go, let go. She told me to let go. And before that, her mother goes, I can't believe she's going to tell you to let go. And since then, she's got her two-wheeler, and she's teaching other kids on the block how to ride too. No, we actually taped it. She said, now listen, kids, this is the way you do it. You put yourself in this condition, and then you take a point out here, and you say, awesome. And she did the whole thing that I did with her, and I said, go. And so it doesn't matter whether you're a kid that I even met or not. You're a human being. You have the antenna. You have the ability to pull in the energy that's going to flow through you to be successful. It isn't just eating a Clark bar or a protein bar that's going to give you that ability. And that's why there's so many things around us in life that support us, but you matter.
Right.
We can't think that just that thing over there is what's going to allow me to make it today. It's a combined process together. And then I have to do something to bring myself up each day to expand further. Otherwise, the planet, at least the way it is now, is not supporting you too much to do anything other than contract. And you have to be honest about that. So when you were saying about your kids, I was thinking, your kids, great on the weekend, but during the week they have that pressure that this isn't going to be that much fun. I don't know if it's going to be that much value. I could, really, so your body starts to react, which is appropriate. But if they had a way of being able to be learning no matter what, they would take over the school. They take over the education. They take over the training.
True.
I've had kids who get bullied at school, and They go,
Yeah.
what am I going to do about this? And I go, it has to do with your field. It has to do with
Right.
your energy field,
Oh
who you
yeah.
are inside. And they
That's
said,
right.
what do you mean? He said, well, they did all these studies of people that were, attacked and who are joggers and everything else. It depends on what space you're in when
Of
you're jogging,
course.
who you are. You don't have to be mean. You just have to have this sense that you are able. You're alert, aware, accurate, and able. And
Right.
you're feeling like you were talking about in the breathing exercises that we've got for you, where you actually feel like your sensors sort of vibrating. You actually feel strong.
Right.
And so, when kids learn that, they don't have to worry about being
It's
beat
true.
up by
No,
by
it's
the
very
bully.
true.
Bully feels like picking on somebody else.
That's right. It's a natural, it is a vibratory thing. It's the one of the reasons why lions know which, gazelle to go, how they pick them out is not just, it's a very sensorial vibrational
Right.
thing. They can sense which ones are weak, which ones they're going to be able to actually catch, right? And that comes from that animal is putting out signals, and that's what we are. We are an array of signal interpreting, sensors. It's part of
Right. That's
who
the
we are.
fact.
Yeah.
But that's the fact. But unfortunately, we actually have what you mentioned, which is choice. So you can choose to stay in the matrix, just like they did in the movie, and you
Yeah.
end up just being,
Yeah.
just run around by life. And then, I feel sorry for those people having that experience, because it doesn't have to be that way.
No, it doesn't. But they're going to come around or they're not. It's like some of them will go blissfully into the night, plugged into the matrix and not ever knowing. But I think that number is diminishing,
Hopefully.
thankfully, because these old systems, they gotta go. They just don't work very well, and they're not set
And you
up
don't even know when you have an old system. It's like every day you may be thinking something the way you think
Yeah.
you may think your emotions are correct, and then you notice that you're not hitting the golf ball, you're not walking that clearly today, or you're not working out as quickly as you felt. You say, well, I need to, what's going on today? Well, your body's always changing, life's always changing. You can
Yeah.
expand and get stronger that day. That resistance is to be a signpost that, oh, I need to
Yeah.
open these sensors. And you can do something about your situation, whether it's financial or whether it's physical or whether it's emotional. And also, say there's a big educational gap. Like I had this one lady I was thinking about while you were talking to her. She's adorable lady, but she came to me and she said, listen, I need to break out of my family. And I go, well,
Yeah.
you're 23 years old. What do you mean break out of your family? She says, well, I have my 3 sisters and my mother, and we're just sort of a unit. I can't get out of there. I need to get a job where I can get my own place and everything else.
Yeah.
I said, great. So how much money have you made so far? And she says, not that much. She says, I want to learn how to sales. So I said, do you have any talent in sales? She goes, I don't know. I said, okay. So she started doing one of the programs that has to do with developing mastery in whatever you want to do, whether communication or in relationship. And so she got very, very great at relationship and communicating, and got one
sales
sales
right there.
job after another. And finally, she just gave a speech. This little tiny, cute blonde girl gave a speech to this huge IT company in Silicon Valley, where she's been promoted to all salespeople throughout the whole United States.
Wow.
About how she was able to go from like dweeb and starting out to now their #1 salesman.
That's amazing.
Salesman.
Yeah.
So how did she develop all those talents? The same way you and I have to develop it. Every day, we have to choose to grow and use techniques to say, okay, I don't know this, and I'm going to learn what I do need to learn. And as long as you're learning, you're winning. When you're not learning, you're not winning. And I think what flattens your kids and what flattens everybody out there is that you don't really feel like you're gaining on each other. You feel sort of like the same old,
It's exactly it.
And then it turns out we feel like we don't like it, but we end up like Family Guy, sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
Eating Cheetos.
That's exactly right. You got to be very mindful not to, obviously some of us are not going to end up like that, but we all know people who are Family Guy. Speaking of kids, Dr. B, I heard that the Grandmaster, and I heard you talking about this once, and it was fascinating, that he asked you why you abandoned your healing powers as a kid. And I was like, man, it's amazing how some people know things about us before they know us, or without us ever having told them. But when you were a kid, you know, what was your beliefs about these things? I mean, you must have been like so blown away coming from Western medicine and then seeing this man heal, from a distance, and seeing him heal, just by touching. Like, why did it? Do you know why he said that to you, and what he was talking about? And like, what was your mindset when you started to encounter all these things?
Yeah, it was amazing. That was an experience that I had gone there back and forth a number of years, and really was feeling and seeing that each day I was growing, each day I was expanding, each day I felt like I wasn't a nuisance being on the camp. I wasn't a person who was sticking out. I actually was part of the flow of the energy flow, so that I could experience, I felt safer and more into what the was going on with the planet itself, because that's really what you're learning. Most people think that, well, I'm in China. No, you're not in China. Well, I'm in America. No, you're not. You're on a globe that's traveling around and around and around on its axis, and also going around the sun. Oh, and by the way, that's not it either. You're also in this huge Milky Way galaxy. Oh, you want to forget about that? Why? Why wouldn't you want to connect all that? So anyway, I was gaining the power of being able to connect all the vibrations, which is part of what the whole discipline's about. And he said, do you know why we decided to train you? And I said, and I almost answered, and then I said, I'm not going to answer this question. I have no way of knowing what to answer this. He grew up, in the forests of China, and I grew up in Kentucky. And as a doctor, I don't think that this is. I have no idea. I said, so maybe this is one of those Zen moments that what I have to do, because you can understand as a doctor, you could go, well, maybe, maybe he wants his son to go to medical school, and he wants me to write him a recommendation. Right. And I said, or maybe he wants me to knock that vase off the wall there by using telekinesis, which is what I'm going to do. And so I said, but that's just another thing. I said, the truth, and I looked him right in the eyes, which is like looking in two totally black holes that went way off into the universe. Wow. Yeah. And I said, the truth, and I went down to my heart. I went, I really don't know. Yeah. And he said, because he said, he's the right answer, meanwhile, which stopped sweating. Yeah. He said, the truth is, you came into the planet with this ability, and one of the qualities of learning these energy techniques is you get this intuition and serendipity that you can sort of pick out information on people, which really is helpful because you know how to get off the freeway, and you know how to do a lot of things that you normally become resistances. So he was reading my whole past and past before my past and my past before that, and he said, when you came into the planet, you actually had these abilities. We just became the venue for you to learn the access point, how to apply these qualities. And you now can teach this to other people. They can use their body and open their sensors to bring these capacities forward. Wow. And then he went ahead and told me a number of other things about my what I'd done as a kid, that I had wonderful experiences. Maybe some people in your audience had the same thing as a child, where all of a sudden you were able to heal an animal, heal a person, cause all kinds of things to happen. If people go, how are you doing that? Well, this little kid's got magic powers or something, let's let him loose. But then later I don't think I can do this in medicine. So I decided to do a white coat technique on that. And so use that behind medicine. But when I finally got to combine the two later on, I mean, when I did in I'd say the past 10 years, when I was doing surgery, I'd have the nurses in between the cases do practices with me, like the ones I have on the website, so they could be in great shape in between cases. And they liked that because they said, when we do cases with you, they go much smoother and quicker. Can you teach this to the other doctors? And I said, it's illicit. I said, because we love to do cases with you because we get finished, you get to come early, and we feel better. And you don't have to understand what the great history of the whole discipline of quantum physics to see how to have your body work. They enjoy that just as much as you and I do, as learning something new every day. So there isn't any limit on how much better it can be in your life, and that, and that's what frustrates us so much with the way things have gone, because the news now is there isn't a limit to how bad the news is going to be, right?
Oh my God.
There isn't a person who calls and goes, this is enough. This is enough. Enough.
And oh man, it boggles my mind. How much is it? What's it going to take for people to say, okay, enough? Well, I'm not going to listen anymore. I'm not going to let someone else tell me what experience I'm supposed to have on this
Yeah,
planet. I'm going to
yeah,
live my life.
yeah.
That's all it takes is that kind of understanding. And why would you let anyone tell you what's happening? I mean, like, this notion that we have with the and this connection to the media, and it's just so dysfunctional. It's like a relationship that is so far gone, but people are codependent on it, and it's like they're waiting for it to feed them, and vice versa. And it's just it's kind of it's a really what's the word, it's an abusive relationship, and it's
Right,
got to
it isn't
go.
supportive. And
No.
that's why whenever, now that I go out and speak, people often introduce me as, this is the best kept secret on the planet. And but I don't want it to be a secret anymore, because people need to recognize that you're got a choice every minute. And that's just the way it is right now. And the choice is, either you're going to get yourself to expand and find out that right now, it doesn't matter whether you're Lucille's age at late 80s, or whether you're the little child's age at 7, your capacity to grow in whatever it is you want to do is available to you. Yes, there isn't a limitation on that, except the feelings and thoughts that we have, that and the lack of immediate success when we're doing things, and the dulling of our desire to keep going is because we don't feel the competence that's inside of us. And so the Western culture has worked so hard at teaching people positive thinking, or chill, or have a lot of confidence, fake it till you make it. And that's okay,
Yeah.
except that with this tradition, you do the practices and then your competence goes up every day. So all of a sudden you notice, hey, I am doing better. My push-ups are better. I'm stronger today than I was last year. I'm better. I didn't start treating my mother until she was 80. And she said, you think this will work for me at 80? I go, really? It doesn't matter whether you're 80 or you're 12 years old. You don't know if you have tomorrow anyway. So you might
Yeah.
as well start making it as good as you can and strengthen yourself wherever you're at, whatever your financial status is, whatever your physical status is, whatever your mental. And she made it to 100 without, any Alzheimer's or meds or any of those other
Wow.
things,
That's
because
amazing.
the practices sort of held her instead. And she was a pretty, Midwestern
Yeah.
Kentucky woman, not a person who was about to try something woo-woo, because I kept telling her it's not woo-woo, it's how we're made. It's just the
That's right.
same science that
It's
makes
actual human nature is what it is.
it's the same science that allows your fingers to move, same science that allows you to listen and how things work. And people say, well, I know how things work. No, you don't know how anything works.
Right.
The truth is, if I said to you, okay, here, move your fingers right now. So if everybody moves their fingers up there, they say, oh yeah, I know what I'm doing. No, you don't. You have no idea. Even in science, all we can do is measure the speed at which the
Right.
nerve pathways goes up to your brain and back down. But then how come you were able to tell it to do that? Where did that come
Yeah.
from? Who
It's
told the
true.
finger to do that? And also, who set the finger in motion? Who set the thing in motion? And also, how come it heals itself when you're doing nothing?
Right.
It heals itself when you go to bed at night. Oh, well, I take that for granted. Who are you that's taking it for granted? Why don't you become part of the process that's healing that? And then you get the joy of growing with your own body. You get the
That's it.
joy of growing with this planet. It's sort of a participation rather than a separation experience.
It's an inclusion, and instead of this separation, you're exactly right. It's kind of it's allowing the true nature, the true force, the true source that is in us, the thing that's making our heart beat, and every trillion things that are happening in our bodies happen without a single thought that requires from us. We don't have to do anything, oh, and it's kind of a stepping out of the way and allowing what is truly there to come into play, right? And in my experience is, the more I can do that, the greater the magic is for me in this. The things that I thought were, a hard and fast rule about everything become not so hard and not so fast. All of a sudden I can see, you know, behind the curtain, and things happen for me that I never could have imagined possible,
That's right.
and it's like, it's all this same idea. It's the same concept. And it's so tapping into it, learning how to tap into it, it will make all the difference in the world, because it gives you the world in a very real sense.
Yeah, and
And
it's
so,
actually set up that way. It's actually set up, the whole system. If someone says, "Oh, you mean someone set this whole thing up?" I said, whether you think a person set it up or whether it just is that way, like water is wet, um, still it does better to wash your hands with water than sandpaper. Okay,
yeah,
so it actually is set up that you can access vibrations so that your body gets stronger every day and you can succeed, or it's set up that you can choose to, breathe toxic
yeah,
substances from exhaust and be involved in all types of things and just ignore that you have the capacity to choose correctly for yourself, your kids, your family. And everyone's been scared that you need some other expert. That's what I wanted you to become and Mrs. Rodriguez to become, is become your own doctor, your own
yeah,
guru. I don't think you can't be dependent. You can learn from other people. Collegial is wonderful,
certainly.
but you have to then be able to go home and show that you're competent yourself, and then you'll want to come back the next day and what's the next thing to learn. And so
Right.
that's where we have to contribute to each other. So I think one person's teaching you music, another person's teaching you writing, another person's teaching you IT.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
all pieces in a big puzzle. But right now, with everybody getting the opposite experience, everybody's thinking that, well, you can just make it on your own, or I'm just going to be separated. It's going to work out. It's not going to work out that way.
Right. No, it was never meant to. And that's the point. That's a great point that you make. What I wanted to know, Doc, is, you went from like this really kind of story type, like legendary training that we see in movies, we see portrayed in movies. I read about in books and like, but you went from, like doing things like having to heal, broken bones with your energy and
Yeah.
and control of the elements, and like you said, like, using the mind to move physical matter in three-dimensional space, telekinesis, things like that. And so you had to come home and take this tremendous amount of training and things that you did and experienced, and you had to organize it in a way that was going to help people who didn't have all that training. And I'm curious, like, how you came to, like, I know that's where Energy for Success was born from, but I'm wondering how you decided on it.
It's a great story. There was a gentleman named Stuart who worked with me for years, and he I knew him from a long time ago, and he knew that every time I came back from China, I was different. And he said, he wasn't a doctor, but he's a very, very effective entrepreneur. And he said, you seem to be so much happier and so much younger every time I see you. And what's going on over there? And I said, it's just the best. And I can teach you these techniques. And so he got excited about it. He said, you mind if I refer some people who are in the, some VIP people in the United States who have very significant problems. Some were illnesses, some were mental, some were financial, some were social. And so I took care of those people in my office, but I made them sign a document that said, and this actually happened with 2 NBA basketball players, which I wish never happened, because now the document says I will never say that I got treated by Dr. B. And plus he did not do medicine, he did not do any surgery, did not do any, he did nothing. All I did, I came to the office because I wanted to sign that, because it was so woo-woo back then.
Yeah, and you didn't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, I
I'm
remember
sure.
when I first started with this, all that was in LA was Winchell's Donuts.
Right.
And we didn't have much else. So I had people sign that, this was a fun experience, something like that, but it wasn't a treatment or anything. But our agreement with each other was that, let's see what happens with this. Does it help you? And over and over again, it would help people. So Stuart said, I think you're ready to go out and tell people about this. Besides Tony and other people, you need to be able to express it. So I started giving talks around the US and in Europe. And I said, if you all want to come back the next time I come here, then I'll give another talk. And so what happened is we filmed all the talks. And so then I utilized that to do treatments in every city I would go to and show people that how they could do it. And then we filmed all those. And then what I made is I got so many people kept inviting me back that I kept making a circuit. So I created all these videos and audios where people could do it themselves. So that's what all travel's been about the past 14 years, which is filming every place I've been and creating these videos, both in the studio and also in public, where it's embedded in the video, the vibration, so that you can do it at home. So you don't have to
Nice.
come to a public event.
The fact that you keep coming back to, you have to love yourself first and foremost. This is the biggest thing that I see people thinking that they can somehow skip over, and thinking that somehow they're going to be able to be in full service to other people when they have not been in full service to themselves yet, when there's still, something there that needs to be integrated or healed, I mean, but that I think has to be, and I love that it's, it's a kind of a core element of your work, and getting people to realize that they matter, and love is inclusive, and it starts with the self.
That's one of the 8. One of the 8 is relationships, and relationships, as I said, there's 8 engines that you need to fire up every day. And you want to hear a little victory about with some gentleman who came in with wanted to know something about relationships?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so this gentleman came in and he said, I really, I've been in your course for some things for my work, and now, I really got that so many people are like meeting their, wonderful relationships now, and I want to have the same thing. He said, my wife passed away a number of years ago, and I'm 70 now, and I'd like to find my soulmate. Like you say, that's possible. That love exists in the energy, mostly what. And look what Eckhart Tolle tells you. He says relationships are very, very difficult to have valuable relationships in the matrix, in the world in which we're given, because it's mostly dependency, obligation. Do this for me, I'll do that for you. It's not soulmate love that I love.
It's a transaction.
I love you the way you are,
yeah.
and I love you the way you're not. I love you. Doesn't matter. I love you all the time. You're fun. I can be loved. And so when you said love yourself, it's actually loving yourself, the other person, and your whole environment. You are love. You're coming from that vibration. So when this 70-year-old gentleman said to me, he said, well, I think there's a chance for me. I said, yeah, sure. You can get a soulmate. I said, when do you want it? He said, well, I'm 70. I'd like to have it as soon as possible. I said, okay. So I said, okay, so now you just have to do, because we have a whole program on soulmates. I average about, depends on how many people a year ask for it, but almost every year we have a whole program of people that get announced they're getting married, and they stay together, which is really great. So he said, well, yeah, I'm ready. I just a few provisos here. I said, well, what? He says, well, I don't have a car. I said, okay, what's that mean? He said, well, I don't drive. I said,
you could have a car. That'd be great.
He says, I really can't drive any, he wanted to date a lady. I said, I can't meet anybody unless they're local. I ride my bike every day to wherever I go. I said, okay, so she's got to be close by. I said, okay. And what else? He says, well, I'd like to find her right away. I don't want to waste time. So I don't want to really have to go through a lot of different dating experiences, and go on a bunch of sites and things. That's a bummer. I said, yeah, well, finding the right person has nothing to do with mechanical. That's the matrix world, mechanical pushing and gridding yourself. Finding the right person comes from who you're pulling in, from who you're being. Can you be someone who's, like you were mentioning, loving yourself, but not only loving yourself, but loving that you are going to represent love at all times, no matter what, whether you're with the environment, or whether you're with your kids, or whether you're with yourself, or whether you're with your mom or your relatives. So he said, okay, I can do that. I said, so you do these practices and we'll work on it, make it happen. So he came back, and in less than a year, he tells his story where he said, I was riding my bike down the street, going to the coffee shop where he was a writer. And he said, I was on my way there and I saw a buddy of mine who was standing on the front lawn of his house. And so he was talking, and so I pulled over my bike and just said, hi, how you doing? What's going on? And he was talking to the lady next door. So lady next door and I talked, and boom, that was
Lo and behold.
Lo and behold. And there she was. And she's not just, he said, I also don't want to marry someone who's a lot of baggage. I said, yeah, because he said, I'm 70. I can't take on a whole lot of responsibility. I want to be a writer. I said, well, just put it down in your goals of what you want. And so he said, well, I want someone who's like financially independent. So I said, okay, great. So this lady was financially independent. Her kids were grown.
She checked all the boxes for him.
She checked all the boxes. They started a conversation, he says, or they told us on stage that didn't end for days. And then, now weeks later, they finally hung together, and then they finally got married. And they've been very, very happy for the longest time. And getting younger all the time, because when you're really find a soulmate, you're coming from a different place. You're coming from a place of
Yeah.
win-win all the time, that I want you to win and I want both of us to win at the same time. I don't want you just to go,
Right.
that you go get the laundry and I'll make the dinner and
Right.
eat you tonight. And then if you do your thing, I won't yell at you. And if I do my thing, you won't yell at me. It's like, what if you were in love that whole time?
Right.
What if that experience of, you make my life just
Yeah.
blossom?
It's a
You make my
different
life blossom.
experience, man.
How could a person's life blossom with another person? Well, you have to find the way to connect from here. And it's not just in a momentary period of time
Right.
meditating during the day. It's, can you be in that space all day? And then that is your sensor that's actually relating to the person. They can feel it. They
Yeah.
actually can. You can call, when you're in that
Totally.
space, you can call your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your kids and go, hi, I was thinking about it. And they go, I was thinking about you too.
Yep. Like I go in the subway and, you know, I'll sit in the back and I'll just try to like, you know, I'll like do like a solar flare with my heart. Like I'll just put a song on or something that really kind of opens me up and I just see if I can affect the mood of this subway. And everyone in New York City is very much, you know, they're shut, their eyes are down, they got the phone out, they're doing their own thing, they're not interacting, they have no desire to interact. So
None.
I get a few people to just kind of stop and look up and out and look around, and I know that I've affected a change because they had no reason to do that, and they're looking around for something and they don't know what, you know. But that's how powerful we are, and that's how powerful this is when you lead from this incredible electromagnetic center right here. And I love playing like that. And having an effect on people. It's I feel like it's part of the reason why we're here is to play.
I would say that play is part of the game, but the way that I fully experience each moment is, and what I've been able to see with all the thousands of people over the years that I've been able to work with, is that really each moment you get thrilled by experiencing your prowess. If you can experience each day that you're making a contribution to everybody, your dog there, or to your kids, or to yourself, then you're going to be turned on to life. But if you don't feel like you're making a contribution, you feel like same old, this is like, wait, is this always going to be this way? If when's the weekend when I can just let go? And most people live, if you deal with the way the matrix is sort of handed you, is that you just sort of gut it out through the day. And then at the end of the day, you have relief.
Yeah.
And then you vape or something, whatever people want to do.
Yeah.
And if at each moment you could experience, what's my contribution right now? So when you were on the subway, your contribution was lighting up their lives in sort of a sensory way. That's fantastic. And you can do it with there's a million ways that you get to contribute once you realize that it isn't always a functional thing with your hands. It has to do with your space you're emanating from.
Right.
And communicating both with yourself and with that other person, and that you all are not separate, because it does take a village. So if you can experience that your prowess, and that you're alert and aware and accurate, and that your confidence is growing each day in terms of being in relationship physically and mentally, and there's a whole lot to look forward to in life. Financially,
really is, you know.
Otherwise people are thinking, well, I feel good, but I live in a cave.
Right.
Because some people say, why did you ever, most say the people that you were trained with, they all stayed in China in the caves and doing, all kinds of things that you see in movies. And I thought the phenomena was fantastic, just to keep proving that you could bend things and all the magic. But I said, the real magic is this planet. I'm a doctor. I want people to make it. I originally came here because I wanted you all to be able to be your own guru, your own master, your own doctor. And no one's training for that. Everyone's training you to have something else that hurts people. And I want people to have, not to go through the angst of what it's like to fail and think that that's all there is. There isn't any failure in this discipline. There's either winning or winning.
That's
You're
right.
either winning by you just accomplish it, or you learn something and now you have these techniques on how to win bit by bit, step by step. You're not left with nothing.
That's right. It's all effort and it's feedback, effort, and winning, and when you realize that, you let go of this, this notion or expectation that you could be doing something wrong. You're just doing something right, and how well you do it it's just gonna depend on how committed you are to doing it well. Um, and I try to teach my kids that, and they're coming around, they're learning. But it's amazing, how much their attitude changes even at their young age. They're 10 and 8, when they feel they're contributing, even when at that young age, when they begin to feel that their sense of purpose and reward is, it starts to, it just changes their whole demeanor. I'm always fascinated by, how it, and then the whole day they're affected, and I'm just like, wow, that's it right there, is to keep them engaged in a way that makes them feel not just like they're a burden, but that they're contributing, and I think the biggest problem with, well, there's a lot of problems with the education system, but one of them is the fact that it's just, it's a nonstop command, and the interaction is not very rewarding for these kids. But that's probably another podcast.
Well, I think it's our podcast also, but the adults are the same. If you
Yeah.
don't experience each day that you're being brought into life,
Yeah.
then because you're contributing, then you feel like you're pushing all the time.
Yeah.
But if you actually have the prowess to contribute, then life needs you. And so then you're being pulled into life.
Yeah.
Which is, you're part of it. There's no separation between you and all this out here. It's actually, you're part of the dynamic as it goes along. It's therefore you matter every moment in a way more than you thought you did in the morning when you woke up. And so there's this joy of being here. Otherwise, why would you want to be here if you felt like halfway through the day, it's not going well. It's
Right.
not going well. Well, it's not going well. Okay,
And
I'll cover that over with something,
Yeah.
That doesn't do it.
I'll just eat. If only I had dessert. At times I've been, I just need some peanut butter cups and I'll be fine. But you reach for something. It's what we do. We learn to reach for something that's going to kind of disguise or camouflage that feeling. But
and it would be okay if it left you stronger, but it doesn't. There's a payback.
Yeah.
And so anything that we grit our way through, it turns out that, well, it's like some people who are very successful, who I've worked with in different industries, entrepreneurs, they're really, really successful, and still they're not thrilled with the way their life turned out. So so I often say to these people, look, I know you've been going after this thing over and over again, and but you can't get enough of what you don't really want. Right. And what you thought you were doing was being successful, and your family's okay, and your kids are okay. So you thought that would all be it. You've got the whole picture going, and your health's okay, and you're still not thrilled with each moment of your life. And he says, well, I've got all these things that I want to get doing. And I said, well, what do you want to do now? He says, well, I could stop and I could just go off and do a vineyard or something, start all over again. I said, you really think, have you met many guys running vineyards who are happy either? He goes, no, not really. So I said, what do you want? I said, what else could you do? In other words, he only had this one formula. So I said, look, what else is it that you're interested in? He said, well, I want to bring my family over from Italy, and then I know I've done a great thing. I want to get them a house and everything. I said, so look, and why is it you want to bring them over? Because they need to be supported, and they need the protection, the health system. I said, okay, great. And so when is it that it's going to be fun for you? He says, well, when I get them here. So that's the mistake. Yeah. You've got to be in the process of each moment that you are actually experiencing the joy of all 8 things, relationship, and being.
Or else, what are you doing?
Being in this space of the thrill, because once they finally get here, that's like a little moment in time. Each moment, but you have to somehow revel in the experience of doing that. And where I've found that you can revel in practicing sports in the morning, or revel in writing books, revel in doing something you've never done before, is instead of fear, have these practices where you turned on. You actually feel, I'm at my best now.
That's why we're here. That's why we're here. I mean,
but the frustration comes that people don't get to access that. And that's what I wish people would have.
Well, I think that, by doing podcasts like this and putting out the things that you learned, that you're enabling more people to find that joy in their life, because it is a joy. It's just like you say, and I agree wholeheartedly. Life is supposed to be a joy. Of course, it's filled with challenges. That's why we chose to come here. I believe we all chose this time to be here, and it wasn't because it was going to be totally unicorns and rainbows, but at the same time, it's unicorns and rainbows because it's beautiful in all of its shades, all of its colors. But I wanted to ask you a question, Doc, before we run out of time. I love asking my guests this question. If you could impart or make a suggestion to the world, when everyone might put their heads down on their pillows tonight to go to sleep, they were in a highly suggestible state, and you could plant a suggestion, just a kind of a simple thing. What would you give them that they could then take into their life the next day that would maybe change things for them? What would you tell them?
You mean a specific idea, or
Like it could be an idea, it could be a mantra, it could be a phrase, or something that they would hopefully remember, but a suggestion that they would take. That
I would tell you that that if you would just bet on yourself every minute and bet on your life that you could make a change right then and there, to have it be that is set up to actually improve, if you'll participate with it by doing something just as simple as one of these exercises where they're filming all this here.
Yes.
Yeah. So you could just put your hands together like this, and you could put your hands in front of you like that.
Okay.
Okay. Put your fingers together, and then slowly put it over your head like this. Okay. You can't see my hands, but it's just extended. But notice how my elbows are close to my ears.
Okay.
And then take a deep, deep breath. Now, take another deep breath. And notice as you breathe, your shoulders can go up even higher. And then take a third. And you could reach up even further. And it's okay to smile. And then the fourth one, you're going to take a deep breath, and you're just going to let your fingers roll apart when we do. So you go, and then you let the air come out, but let it come out really slow as it comes down. We do this in between surgery, the nurses and I, like 3 times. And as you let your fingers just come down, you don't even have to bring them down. The energy or the flow of life will start to emanate, and it gets easier and easier as you start to bring it down to where your heart space is, and just let it relax here over your chest. Now, what I want you to do is try to do it one more time and see the difference. So now you do it one more time. Now the energy started to flow. So put your fingers again in front like that, there you go. And then put it over your head. And then notice that your arms can go farther up, closer to your ears without hurting yourself. Your head's calm and relaxed. And then take a deep breath. Look slightly up, and then now you don't have to let the air out. You can just keep breathing in. So you're going to be like a person who goes deep into diving and doesn't have to breathe. And then take the third breath in. So now your whole chest and upper torso is filled with air. And then on the fourth, slowly let your hands come down. As easy, and let them come down as slow as you would enjoy doing this. And there is no reason to speed up. Just take forever. Let your body do it. You don't have to do anything. Let your body do it. Let your body do it. Let your body do it. Just let your body roll in. And then slowly let your hands work their way towards the middle of your chest. Some of you go slower than others, and then put one hand on top of the other. And then put your hand over the chest bone and relax. And you keep your eyes closed or open, but if you keep them closed, you can say, I'd like the next 3 hours of my day to go smooth, quick, and better than I could ever expect. And then see what happens.
Yeah. Boy, I love that. You can feel all the tingly energy, and everything feels expanded.
Yeah, that's what.
It's such a simple thing, and so
yeah,
great.
and we have all these physical exercises for people if they want. We actually have a gift for everybody that I think you're gonna.
Oh yeah, that's right. We do.
Yeah, so it's I think the link for that is Energy for Success.
That's right.
And
if you're listening to this, guys,
gap talk, the beginning
far
of
out
the podcast.
far out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's energyforsuccess.com /far out.
Far
And
out.
FAROUT, and in acknowledgement of this wonderful podcast. So
Thanks,
what's
Dr.
we
B.
have there are some things that are both you can learn right away to start
Mhm.
opening up your sensors, and then there's other programs on there, and there's other things that you can really enjoy that are
Yeah, there's a
wonderful, that
bunch of content.
you can start applying right away, stuff that's right
Absolutely.
there for you to use.
It's a bunch of content. A lot of it is free. We just gave you a promo code that you can use. Check it out. There's a lot there you can jump right into. That's what I've been doing for the past 3 days, and it's been awesome. And I'm so grateful for your time, Dr. B. I know how busy you are with your schedule and everything, and I'm really, really grateful. Yeah, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're really doing a service for people, and it's been a pleasure being here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Doc. Listen, I'll be in touch, and I'll keep you posted on how we're doing with everything.
I can't wait to hear.
Okay, Doc.
Someone, I'd like
Absolutely.
to succeed. You're really good. Thanks.
Oh, thanks, Doc. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
All right, bye.
Okay, bye.